I finally figured out the sunroof clog on my XJ8. So the rear drain on the left side kept getting water. Pretty common. You can see here with my testing dripping all the way down here, even on the floorboard, on the floor seat, footrest. And you can see up here water stains, so it's pretty bad. It was getting bad. So it was essentially the drain empties out like right about here above the handle, and it was dripping all the way down. So it was dripping at the connection from the drain at the sunroof, right? So there's a nozzle. So the nozzle actually, the drain actually comes all the way down here, and the nozzle starts somewhere here. I pulled down the headliner a bit, but it was hard to access. And I couldn't get enough to like pull off the nozzle there. So what I did is I started working my way from the back. You could see it was dripping all the way down here. So the tube runs from there all the way down here. And the access, you can see this is now draining here. So I was trying to figure out, this is what the tube looks like. It's basically a black rubber tube. And the access, it should empty out right behind the back tire. So there's a nozzle that connects to the end of this tube, and this nozzle is what connects to the fitting on the back side of this fender. Now, I'll tell you some tricks. So this nozzle, I'll show you how to access it. It takes some force to pull it out. It's pretty snug, so don't be afraid to just yank it. It's just a rubber hose with a nozzle at the end. And it just fits on top of this hose here. So I tried a number of different things first, right? So first I tried this lawnmower trim wire. The problem with this is a lot of people use this. I think it's okay on if you're clearing the front drains, but on the rear drains you have no sight line. You have no leverage, and leverage is really key to clear this, right? So even I tried it back here and I got about halfway with the other methods that I got. So I got halfway up with this compared to the other methods that I used. So then, second thing, so one good tip I saw on YouTube was using, I guess in the UK they call it a curtain wire. So I ordered this curtain wire off of Amazon. So it's just basically like a stiff, it's kind of like a stiff pliable wire. In the US it's not that common, but this helped once I found access to the drain in the back. So I was essentially resigned to working my way from the back up after the headliner was just like impossible to access without ripping the whole thing out. And you know the rear drain is possible to access from the top. So this got up here. It's really easy to fish this all the way through because it's stiff. Now the problem with this came when I was trying to clear the actual blockage. So I was hitting the blockage point, which I think was close to the front connection, the front nozzle. And it wasn't doing anything once it hit that point. So I ran some water after I hit the blockage with this. I ran some water down to see if I could loosen it up and then push this additionally. That was a no-go. So to finally get this unclogged, what I did was two things. One, I used a 50-50 mix of water and vinegar, poured it in the back drain. And second, I used this 18 gauge, instead of the curtain wire, I used this 18 gauge steel galvanized wire. So the benefit to this is that it's stiff, sharp, but not sharp enough that it's going to pierce your hose, because the hose is fairly thick, as if you can see, but you get enough leverage that you will feel it moving through the hose and you can still push it through. So when I used this wire alone by itself, I was hitting the same exact point at the blockage that I was hitting with the curtain wire. I think the trick is using that vinegar water mix, letting it sit, work its way through, then going back with this steel galvanized wire and kind of like getting it to the point where you know where you see where you can feel where the blockage is, and then just keep jiggling it and massaging it through that blockage. As soon as I did that, about 2 times after the vinegar mix was sitting in there, the water that I poured all came gushing through. So I originally had in like a small cup and it filled the cup, and now I put this pan here. And that's pretty much it. So I'll show you, let me pull this out. Get this everywhere. Alright, so I'll pull this out and let me show you how to access this. Now my recommendation is you have a stool here, right? So kneel on the stool, lean over. What you're gonna do is, this part here is your spare, covering your spare. You're gonna pull away this side compartment. Now, most of the Jags have like this opening here. Some of them have an amp, some of them don't. Mine is just standard audio, so it doesn't have an amp. And you're gonna basically need to access this left side, and you'll see all the wiring back here. So here's my shelf. I took apart so there's 2 parts of the shelf. I took off the top part of the shelf to access the tube easier. So here's the tube, right? And the tube, you can see, is behind the firewall. It actually fishes through, I don't know if you can see this hole. So the nozzle and the hole is actually back here. So if you see this cable tie, the wire sits right behind the cable. The tube sits right behind the cable tie, and that's where the nozzle is going to go. So you're going to stick your hand down here and essentially pull off the nozzle and pull up the wire, and then you can feed the wire. Once it's connected, feed the wire back up through that hole and up here, so it's easier to access and easier to fish your steel wire through. That's pretty much it. I haven't put this back on to connect the nozzle back and do a final test. I imagine that's going to be a little bit hard because the axis is tight here, and you're just going to kind of have to feel your way back to attach that nozzle. But the hard part is done. The clog is cleared, and hopefully that helps you guys. And then you just reassemble everything, put this back, reset your spare tire cover, and you're good. Guys, so it rained about 2 inches today. Checked the back and it is pretty dry, I would say. This is a tiny bit damp, but otherwise much better. So there may be some of that seepage coming through, but it rained all day, over 2 inches, and there's barely anything wet here. I would say clearing that sunroof drain definitely is the major culprit. Up here it feels pretty dry as well, maybe just a drop or two. I feel but nothing I would say that's significant enough to like rip anything out. And down in here it's completely dry, so that means like nothing's dripping from the ceiling and working its way down to the lowest point. So if you're experiencing like major wetness and a puddle of rain water on your floor, definitely unclog your sunroof drain.